right? It's sort of like that the meme out there of Kevin's. Okay, remember Kevin from Home Alone? And everybody asks, like, what the hell did his dad do for a living to take his entire family to Europe and live in this giant house in, like, was it Schaumburg, Illinois, or something like that, one of the suburbs of Chicago, on this huge lot and everything. Like, what the hell did he do to make that kind of money? Because most people don't make that kind of, vast majority of people don't make that kind of money. Well, it's because that was the illusion that Hollywood is selling you. Hollywood's selling you this illusion that, I mean, look at your advertising. How many people live the lifestyle of the people that you're seeing in advertising? Almost nobody, right? It's such a tiny, I mean, to have that kind of lifestyle, right, you have to make just an insane amount of money. It's so much so, by the way, the propaganda is so good, it's actually ruined birth rates. You've heard me talk about birth rates here before, but it's ruined birth rates because it's given women, young women, this false sense of like, well, yeah, any man I have to marry has to make like $1 million a day or something like that because everything is crazy expensive. Like, men have never made that kind of money, right? They never did. Vast majority of men did not. Even boomers didn't make that kind of money. Even in terms of spending power, they didn't make that kind of money. In fact, see, TV shows, if you notice, you can't really see it today, but for those of you that are too young to remember this, ask any of your old, your Gen Xers, and they'll tell you that they remember, seeing TBS, right, Turner Broadcasting, and back in the day when you would rush home from school and by like 3:05, because it was always '05 for whatever reason, they would put on these old TV shows from back in the 60s and 50s, 60s, 70s, and most of the characters and most of the situations were around, they were a little more realistic they were aspirational, but they weren't too far outside of like what someone could achieve if they just did a regular blue collar job. This is your Simpsons thing, so your late 80s, early 90s, where Homer is a high school educated guy who works at a nuclear power plant and makes enough money there to afford a house and 3 kids and a wife who doesn't have to work outside the home. Now, they may not have had like lots of money, but they were able to function on that. Well, that has steadily, if you notice, and this is where the writing quality gets really terrible in Hollywood, is that they constantly put people in situations where there is no way that those jobs pay that much money. And we saw this, of course, in the 90s. Like everybody used to joke about it with Friends, the TV show Friends, where they're like, dude, how the hell much money are these kids making? Because like, they look at the size of the apartments in New York, like, dude, nobody lives like that. And so New Yorkers would always joke about that shit. Well, yeah, it's because it's fake. It's fake. It's because writers in most cases don't come from any kind of working background. Especially nowadays, writers just come from other writers, and so they can't relate to anything. It's why their content falls flat. It's why journalism sucks. It's why all of this stuff that you're seeing sucks, and it all seems off. It's because none of the people that are writing about this stuff or talking about it or reporting on it know anything at all about any of this stuff. They're just speculating. That, oh, well, I speculate if you did this job, you'd make this much money. Or if you speculate that you did this job, you're going to make, not enough money. Even though sometimes it's the exact opposite, right? Sometimes doing certain jobs that you think are really crappy, low-grade jobs can pay quite well. Mike Rowe had a whole TV show on it, right? The guy, the Dirty Job show. Not that I agree with everything Mike Rowe said, but I mean, dude, he wasn't wrong about that. And like this is sort of the thing that got lost, and this is why you have so much propaganda out there. So you've got so many people that believe all this shit. Well, if you're going to have a parallel economy, you have to be able to not believe any of that shit and realize that like that's not how it works. That's not how it works. I mean, you're going to have to start all over. This is, I mean, it's sort of like going back into my Texit video that I did, I don't know, whatever, a month ago or so. Where I explain, like, well, you've got to really look at, like, how exactly are you, because what you're talking about is having to establish a country, right? Well, before you establish a country, you must first establish a culture. Remember, cultures create a country, not the other way around. So you have to first establish a culture, and people are still caught up in the culture war. And they're caught up in the culture war because, again, everybody's arguing about money. Everybody's arguing about the spending power. They're arguing about all these things. Now, if you recall, in a very first video I ever did, the primer video, it's on YouTube, you can look it up. I used a Fibonacci sequence of numbers, and I pointed out that if you change one number here at the very top, that means every successive answer after that, even if each individual answer is correct, the sequence is wrong. That's where we are right now. The sequence is so out of whack now that if you were to correct all these things, then all of this other shit goes away. That's terrifying for most